thank you everybody for coming to join us here. I'm very happy that we were able to participate in this seminar. And the name that we chose for the syllabus for the presentation versus what I'm actually going to talk about this, it was a little dry. I think once I started thinking about this, I figured that I would give you just 3 case studies, 2 of very successful projects that I ran at one point or another, and 1 that I was involved in, I ran for a while, and then it went completely off the rails, and it was one of the worst experiences professionally that I had. Because I don't think it makes any sense. We learn a lot more from the mistakes we make than from the successes. The successes go to our head really fast. So I'm going to start here with the presentation. So Eugene, that's me, and basically I have a lot of experience professionally. I've been in the software industry since 1983, 1984. When that happened, I was still in high school, so it's been a very long time. In the meantime, in the interim, I've been able, and I had the privilege to work with some of the largest companies in the world, in the US, in the EU, Eastern Europe, and Japan. And there's a few logos in there. Those are not all the logos. There were lots of screw-ups along the way, and the screw-ups were the times when I learned the most. I even got kicked out of my own company at one point. I was screwing up so bad that's how bad it got. But eventually, you know, I managed to figure out how to recover from that, and over the course of the next 12 to 15 years after I got kicked out of my own company, I got to the point where the people I work with, the projects I got engaged in, they all started to work out really well. And then in the last 7 years, I had 6 successful exits. An exit meaning my company was acquired, or it went public, or otherwise it was a successful way of ending that period of my life. Nowadays, I work as a venture advisor and angel investor, basically small companies up to maybe $15, $20 million bring me in to help them figure out their technology strategy, sometimes their business strategy, and that's what I'm doing now. I have the chat open, so if you guys want to ask something or interrupt, just in the middle of the chat, just type your comment in the chat window, and I'll see it. And let's go. All right. So the first use case that I'm going to give you is Walmart Online Global. Everybody knows Walmart. A lot of people hate Walmart. I was at Walmart. I came in as a senior software engineer in 2004. By late 2005, I was a chief architect for Walmart.com. At the time, it was the 2nd or 3rd largest e-commerce site after Amazon and eBay. eBay and those were kind of fighting it out. And Walmart realized that we had a problem. The online properties for the US, UK, ASDA, Mexico has 7 or 8 different Walmart properties. They have a clothing store called Suburbia, general merchandise. They have the Walmarts that you know. They have another chain of grocery stores called Aurrera. They have all kinds of stuff. So all the different properties in Brazil, in Japan, everywhere where Walmart was or is, had a different computer system, a different online system. They didn't talk to each other. And basically management said, hey guys, we need you to figure out a strategy for the platform. And we went in we had a project that was supposed to last 15 months. We had 65 people with 3 teams, a web team, a platform team. The platform means all the databases and infrastructure and supporting technology that goes behind the web. Whenever you see a successful web online presence or a successful app, turns out that there's a much bigger infrastructure setup behind it, like in the case of Netflix, where you see what you see on your screen actually takes hundreds of thousands of computers and people and everything behind it. So that's what we were trying to do. Walmart realized that if we did this the traditional Walmart way, it was not going to work. So it was a skunkworks project where it was completely separate from the stores. It was separate from Walmart.com. They put us in another building and they said, go. Management, most of management approved, some didn't like it, but the whole philosophy of this project was to move fast, to break things, and don't worry about whether we're correct or not. And there was a very strong case for the status quo. In 2006, when this was done, 2007, Walmart had the best logistics in the world, right? Better than anyone else. If you recall, there was a hurricane called Katrina that wiped out New Orleans and other parts of the South. And the federal government and FEMA took about 6 days to get there. Walmart trucks were delivering water and food for free, no questions asked, just go and deliver it 2 days after the hurricane hit. So that's the level of efficiency that Walmart had. It was just very, very good at moving things around. We were not very good at moving things online. That's why we were number 3. And then eventually we ended up at number 10. And Walmart.com is not even a factor right now, sadly for us. But that I'll explain how that came about. So what happened? We realized that because of the politics, we were not going to have 15 months to finish this. There was just too much pressure. So we set an internal clock to finish it in 12 months. And the actual deliverable was done in 9 months, which it was unheard of for a project like that. So that was the first success. The second success for us was that we replaced all the legacy systems. All the legacy systems are all the old computers, mainframes and stuff. We determined that in order to make this work, we had to run in a different platform than the one that we had at the Walmart stores. So when you go to a Walmart store and you buy something, the cashier, those computers are talking to the old legacy systems. Whenever you go online to Walmart or Asda or Sam's or whatever, all those systems are new. They're based on a different technology base. But at the time, some of them were still running on legacy systems. Another mandate we had was that each platform for each property for each country. So for example, in Mexico, we got 7 of them, right? Had to cost at initial deployment, $2.5 million or less. That had to include coding, software licenses, computers, etc., which was a ridiculously small amount of money. And we actually managed to deliver at $2 million a pop, which was very, very much unheard of. The reason we did that was we did not want management pressures to say no because of price. This was all accomplished through very decentralized teams. Basically, the web guys, the platform, and business development, we were all working as if it were a startup, as if it were a completely standalone company, and our life depended, which in a way it did, and our life depended on it. Our jobs had to depend on it. So that was the reason why we were able to do all these things, because we were not approaching it. In fact, anytime that Walmart stores in Bentonville said, hey, we have servers here, we have people, we actually listened to them, went and talked to them in Bentonville. I did a lot of trips between San Francisco and Bentonville, and ultimately politely said, no, thank you, it doesn't fit what we're doing. Because basically, anytime that we try to couple with the old legacy systems or with the old legacy business structure, it would actually slow us down and make things more expensive instead of cheaper, because all those guys wanted to defend their turfs. By the same token, every team, web, platform, or business development owned their own success or failure. If some part of this didn't work, it was up to that team and not the whole group of skunkworks called Walmart Global. It was only that team that had to figure out a solution or a workaround or a better way of doing things that would not affect or break the others. That also gave us a lot of flexibility on how to get to the end. We had a lot of reality checks. We didn't have a lot of meetings actually, but every week we had an actual checkup. We actually turned everything on that we had built and tried to see if it was actually working. And Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we had people just testing this, does it work? does the checkout work? Does the payment processing work? Whatever it was, so that we make sure that if Walmart decided to pull the trigger, the rest of the company, that it would work. And the most important thing was a strong communication. We were able to pull this off, and this became the Walmart Online Global systems, precisely because there was a lot of communication. Nobody had fear of getting fired about something they said, all the way to the CEO of this new Skunkworks venture. So whenever you have a big team, a big project, etc., the best thing to do is to not have one guy or one or two guys centralizing all the decision making. You have to trust the people who work for you, and you have to push the responsibility to them and make sure that they understand and they know that their success or failure of the project is their own success and failure, and of the people who work with them or for them. And that was pretty much the lesson that we learned with Walmart Online Global. If you want to ask a couple of questions about this, go ahead and ask in chat or raise your hand. And Abby, you tell me if someone just unmute them, or I can move on. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to react. Okay, well, I still have people and no questions, so I assume it's not that boring. Thank you. So the second case study is something called Summly. You can probably Google it, and you'll find us on Wikipedia. Summly, we set up, our charter was to create the best news summarization app in the world in less than 8 months. Very ambitious plan. At the time, Facebook was trying to get into news, and Google was there, and Wall Street Journal had their app, and everyone wanted to have their own news. In fact, to this day, that's still the case. Everyone wants you to get their app and everything to see their news. What we said is like, hey, we're going to concentrate the news from everybody, and we're going to put them in an app, and we're going to give you that app, a summary of all the news from every major publication so you can see it. Once again, we had a decentralized team, and this was very decentralized. We literally had 4 people in the team. It was me. I was in charge of all the engineering and some of the business development and figuring out how to put the whole thing together, the architecture. We had a super guru on artificial intelligence so that we could do summarization automatically through computers. At the time, the other apps that were doing summarization, they actually hired people to do summarization. They hired a bunch of people in India and in Vietnam and wherever, and they were doing the summaries by hand. As a result, we could do thousands of summaries per day. They could do hundreds of summaries per day. So we covered everything from the front page to the gossip page. And one business development guy and the founder. And that was interesting because the founder was a 16-year-old kid. That was his idea. So my boss was a 16-year-old kid from the UK who looked like he was in a boys band, right? And he had a great idea, but he didn't know how to execute it, which was great. He found a very good business development guy to execute, an okay guy for the architecture, and a super duper guy for the AI stuff. So that's what we did. The next constraint we had is we only had $1 million in budget. And our competitors were small people like Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Flipboard, you name it. We had some very big competitors. Then we had very hostile third parties like News Corp. Everybody has heard the horror stories about Fox News and News Corp, Wall Street Journal. They're very protective of their intellectual property. So of course they were royally pissed off that we were doing this. So what happened? Okay, so we went and did this again blindly. Let's just do the best job that we can. And we met all our goals. We launched on Halloween of 2012, exactly a week before Nick's birthday. That was very important because in all the press releases and everything, part of our strategy, part of the business strategy was to say, 16-year-old genius launches app that revolutionizes the world, and we did it. So that was really good. We have a bunch of breakthroughs in AI technology for summarization. We have something like 6 or 7 patents filed and granted for this. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, there's a couple of them there. There's a couple for the other people that were in the project. It was a distributed team. I was living in Kyiv at the time. We're Mexican who lives in San Francisco and occasionally in Russia and the Ukraine. Nick was in London. The AI guru lives in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And then the contractors were actually in Silicon Valley. Like in the Walmart situation, each team was focused on execution and just coordinating everything and making sure that we delivered what was needed so that we could get to the next step. How did this affect your life? If you have Bumble, if you have Tinder, if you have any of those apps, pretty much any app today uses the swiping left and right. We invented that and we have a patent for it. That was our baby. Before that, iPhone apps didn't have the swipe a section of the screen for the next step. That was one of our patents. And we sold the company to Yahoo for $30 million in March 2013. Exactly 5 months. My first day at Yahoo was on April 1st or April 2nd of 2013, 5 months after launch. So we were able to meet all our goals precisely because we were laser focused on what we had to do, and able, we had a lot of contractors. At one point, we had something like 30 contractors working for us, but that didn't matter. Each of the groups was able to work independently of the others, so we were able to deliver this on time. Are there any questions? This is, by the way, one of the press photos that we did that was our first day at Yahoo, right? That Nick is on the left, fresh at 17-year-old, and Inderjeet, the AI guru, and me. And that was our first day at Yahoo. Are there any questions about this setup?
I am kind of curious. What was that like having this 17-year-old be your boss?
The technical term, and I like spicy language, it was a fucking nightmare because he was 17. So he would call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. Are we done with this? Then he would call me at 4 o'clock in the morning. Are we done with this? Are we done with this other thing? Are we done with this? And he would call me and 65 other people. He became famous. There was an article on, I think it was on the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, where everybody, Nick is a great guy. I loved working with him. But everybody he talked to said, yeah, this guy is calling me 10 times a day. There's a great anecdote for Nick to understand Nick and why he was successful. When we were in the middle of this, we're looking for funding. Halfway through the project, we ran out of someone. We knew we were getting another check, but we had like $50,000 to $100,000 gap that we need to cover, 2 months before launch for some database or something. And Nick found out that Yoko Ono was having an art exhibit in London, and she had an app to go with it so that you would go to the painting or whatever she had. And yeah, the Yoko Ono, John Lennon's Yoko Ono, that Yoko Ono, that you would press something on the app and something, it would react to the painting that you were in front of, right? And the app was not approved in the App Store. So Nick finds this out, he's in London, and he realizes, oh my God, I have to do something. So he calls Yoko Ono or her agent or something and says, hey, my name is Nick Aloisio. I have contacts at Apple. I can get your app approved. And the guy said, oh, okay. He found this out in the news, by the way. He didn't find out like officially. He just read the news and found this out. So he calls Yoko Ono's agent and tells them that. And then when they agreed to work with him, then he calls the main guy at Apple. I can't remember. Scott Forstall. He was the main guy for iPhone, the whole of the iPhone team at Apple in 2012. And we were working with him. We were not friends. We were working with them to launch this and everything. So, Forstall picks up the phone and says, hey, Nick, what do you need? He's like, well, Yoko Ono has this problem and everything. Can you help me push her app through? And Nick and Forstall, Scott says basically, well, okay, we normally don't do that, but sure, we can help you with that. So he puts these two people, he didn't really know them very well or nothing at all. He puts them together, makes it happen, And as a result, the $100,000 investment that we had that we had to have in the short term came from Yoko Ono. So that's a kind of weird synergy. That's a kind of thinking of your feet. That's the kind of thing that Nick would do, and we were all doing stuff like that to make sure that the project happened. So don't be afraid to take risks. It was a huge risk for Yoko Ono, not for Nick. Nick doesn't lose anything. And we ended up winning an investor and a lot more clout. That's one of the reasons why the app was successful, because we got a lot of famous people promoting the app and everything, some of them just because they heard about the story.